Testing, testing. Move my mic a little closer. Currently, I already have this pulled up here. This is Mali, Africa. That's this. Just setting up my stream right now. About to delay. That's not what I want. A little thinner. Color. It's not the greatest right now. But it'll have to do. Alright, at least I got a little bit. Now, we're currently looking at the country of Mali in Africa. There is about that. Slight connection hiccup with OBS. It is the latest version 30.0, so there's a lot of new tech on this thing. I just hope it's not disconnecting because of its new live control panel. Anyway. These all look like burnt earth, scorched earth. Definitely a brush fire. Fires burn a little differently in Africa. Turn on fade. Even in the winter, it's not freezing. These fires are quick. Let's see here. Dates on the top right. And the rest. Not exact, but These are the areas that have been burned so far. It starts here in the center, and southwest a little bit, and then fire still continued to smolder in the north side of the flank of the fire, end up heading out north east pretty sharply. There's a river here, and as we talk about wildfires and rivers, fire is going to be burning. The wind, let's say the wind is pushing it south of the river, and it starts getting into this area here. So there's going to be like a lot of low-lying vegetation, especially if there's a drought and you have this fire just constantly making these loops going around and around, because as the wind will blow here south, and then you'll get here this westerly wind blowing in this channel or ditch or river, that's going to push the fire, and it's going to use this momentum to drive up again. You start seeing these arcs, crescent shapes. Fire doesn't have to go any further. It doesn't have to go into the water. It's not going to put itself out. It's going to take the path of least resistance. Then you have hot particulates that fall and start fire on the other side. See it a lot in Africa. Whenever a fire starts going, it's going to continually burning straight through. It's going to fan out if the fuel allows it, but depending on how fast these wildfires are coming out, they're just ripping out of these channels, these ditches. See lots of smoke. I'll let this play for a second. You get a sense of just how this fire travels and eats away at the land and all the resources available. It moves incredibly fast in just a few short days. There's no outrunning it. You're fighting the fire on one side, and then say if you have a crew that's wildland firefighters out here, and the fire sneaks out the back, gains momentum and lurches forward, comes out, and propels itself forward. I'm gonna take the path of least resistance. There are a number of fires burning throughout Mali, the east region. You see an active fire perimeter right here. I was thinking about looking in Africa. Fires can be pretty devastating, especially with a lot of the old lead trees that are still there. A lot of dead trees, a lot of shrubs, a lot of brush. Not that somebody's supposed to manage any of it, because wildlife manages all that in itself. Elephants pull down trees that are unnecessary, and they literally rip the trees apart and eat them. It's a very violent death for the tree. The elephants, they literally just tear apart open the bark, and that inner membrane, the transport of water, they just eat it up and they roll the bark around in their mouth like a toothpick. These wildfires, imagine there would be some happy elephants that would be rolling around in the ash of these wildfires, on top of antelope and other animals, wildebeest, impala, a lot of animals, even bigger birds, will find the use of these natural fires that happen, brush fires. They'll give themselves a nice little dust bath. But besides that, introducing fire of this size to an ecology is pretty serious. It is tremendous burns. See here. Now, this is a recent satellite shot. This isn't made to look like fire. This is a satellite actually capturing a wave of fire. This is not something that is altered due to the satellite data coming up. This is what fire looks like as it's racing around. Forward, out. You have forward momentum, and then it starts waving out. It starts burning a lot more of the fuel that was left behind, like this. Start seeing the little embers burning right here. Embers, I shouldn't say embers because at a scale like this, these would be homes. The size of these fires. Not saying they're homes, but the scale of what we're looking at right now is pretty high up there, 500 meters. Kind of look like explosions. How these ring around, but it's not fire like we're about to watch. Isn't happening. These fires don't burn in the way that we think they look after we see the, oh yeah, it's a giant ring, of course it burned. You see this area here that was previously burned. Push play. Fire, fire. Then chaos, just a few days later. Seems to be all just coming out of this burnt area here. If it's still smoldering, if it's still, because we're using false color now to be able to tell the difference between burnt land and land that is lush and green. And these darkened areas are scorched earth. Wow, okay. This is serious. Now you see all this smoke here? There's a lot of smoke. These are not clouds. It does not pick up clouds that much. We're looking at smoke here. We're looking at smoke and a lot of fire. This is unbearable to see. Here, here, right here. Those are all fires that are currently still burning. We know that because there's a fire right here that's still burning. Right here that's still burning. Two can meet up here and all this will burn here. All this will burn. This is, as long as the fuel is there and it's dry enough. But there's no managing these. These are massive regions of outland, wildland. There's a lot of smoke here. This is a lot of fire. We're still in Mali. Mali is a very strange kind of like a boot, shape of the country Mali in Africa. It's shaped like a boot. Oh, I'm sorry. We actually moved south. We've been moving south from Mali all this time. We're now in Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso seems to be a expressway to hell when it comes to wildfires, because they're currently Nigeria is a country in West Africa of over 230 million people. These are not small regions. These are not small economies. These are not unlived areas. Now, the Burkina Faso, this is looking like one of the most tremendous outbreaks I've seen in a while. See the fire here? See how bright that is? You have the other tremendous burns. Really a deep-seated fire. And every time one of these roads are taken out throughout Africa, it's very difficult for transportation to get around if a flood or fire destroys a road. It is another world of transportation. These fires are tremendous. See these fires here? A burn right here. And all this other blackened land, scorched earth. Burkina Faso is in West Africa, currently experiencing a great deal amount of burns. Say most of the country has had fire. Like, say it's 30% of the country has had some kind of fire. Fires just go on endlessly. They don't stop. Why would they need to? We got plenty of fuel to see here. Not saying that's the origin of the fire, but we go from this amount of fire, very little, to 20%, at least 40% of the scan knowing fire right now. And as you can see, all that will burn, all that will burn, and that. These are serious wildfires. These are not simple, these are not brush fires or bush fires. These are wildfires. You can tell just there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fires that are burned all around here in Burkina Faso. It is dozens of at least 20 square kilometers each burns. It looks like from shelling, possibly. You have these circles that start here that burn hot and then radiate out. Fire here. The area was relatively free of fire for a few short days. Mali, Nigeria, and Burkina Faso. Okay, I was in Ghana at that point. Okay, so here's wildfires right now as they stand. Mali, Burkina Faso, some of Ghana, and I don't think there are wildfires here, but there are in Nigeria. Nigeria is a country of over 200 million people. So there are hundreds of millions of people that are around these wildfires. These are not small countries that we're referring to when we refer to Nigeria. Massive. West Africa is pretty massive. Industrial. A lot of burn here. Let me try to time lapse this. Had to have been burned before. Some of this land is still pretty dark, even though it burned in the last 2 weeks. Head over to Nigeria. Cloud coverage. All burned land right here. We know that because there are active fires here in Nigeria right now. Pretty large fires. Huh. Okay, here's the 27th. First of November. Number of spotty fires, and these spotty fires, they burn out and use smoke. Fires will burn. Racing underneath smoke as it becomes a train from hell. we're seeing all over the place here. This is just 10 days. We went from the 27th, just a few fires here, to the 1st, see a lot of smoke here, to the 11th. Massive amounts of fire has burned. This is Nigeria, a country of over 2 people. Some regions of Africa are in some really severe problem with wildfires. I didn't know that these fires were burning as deep as this, these deep-seated fires that just keep spreading fires from a central location of a point of origin. Some of these fires are burning very strangely. How lush and green and beautiful, vibrant this land is. And within a few short days, right here, this lush land devastated by fire. Now, people argue that fire is natural and occurs naturally. But we're not talking about natural regions. We're talking about deforested, talking about massive amounts of ecology loss. Where's that water going to go now? See, so many of these forests get torn down for farming purposes or structures, buildings, for any reason. But you tear down thousands of trees. Where is that water going to go now? I hope it floods certain areas. I'm not going to say which. But you completely destroy the ecology in extremely short amount of time. It's not going to recover. You're going to have a prone, ridden area forever. Did you know that Florida has redwood trees? Pretty devastating. We go back 100 years. The tallest tree in the United States was over 900 feet tall. Now, the tallest tree, just short of 100 years, is under 300 feet. We are in trouble. There is no way to recover from the loss of an ecology that has been there for thousands of years, thriving. We introduce fires unnaturally through power lines, electrical lines, substations. There was a power failure in my neighborhood a few months ago, and a power line actually fell on the fence in our backyard and had the entire uh, fence electrified. No one was hurt, but it's just how quickly these things can happen. Just go open your gate, just try to look into it. But there's also a lot of water. Very frightening amount of electricity. You can just hear the humming. Sorry, my phone rang. I had to check it. Nothing important for now. Now the other countries that have been burning, that have known fire, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique. Partly, I would say, it's attributed to the Mozambique Channel being hot. There's some submarine volcanic activity in these areas. I'm not saying it's the cause of any of the thermal disruption, but it's there, and that doesn't help. Raw fires. Nothing too extreme though. Zimbabwe. Looks old. Look at that. You just zoom in on a fire in Zimbabwe. See how this started. Not able to see. It just happens and it's very deep seated, very hot. It's definitely racing towards a lot of fuel. Another little fire right here. In case you missed this fire here, the wildfire. Now we're in Mozambique. They were having wildfires around these rivers and channels. This is gonna be a serious wildfire here. Go back to this. These meet up here. Then this area. We have a pretty severe burn that could happen. I expect these fires to rage across these river systems. Again, we're in Mozambique. There are dozens and dozens of fires, just like this one, that are burning all along the countryside in the northeast section of Mozambique. These do not look like they're in populated areas, but they are near a river system, and as always, fire and heat drive away moisture, cause droughts. Fires just all over the place here. This is, again, these are not as data on the satellite imagery. These are what the fires look like. Might be burning differently. They're standing, but the way they burn outwards like this, arc usually, because it goes through phases. We're not just seeing complete fire. It's not just all one fire completely burned. Fire that went through a trail here, the arc right here. So the fire went like this. This little part took off here, found a deep seat right here. Fires went alongside these river systems and shot out at the ends. Fire abuses these river systems more than anything else I can think of. Especially looking at this in Mozambique right now, right next to the Mozambique Channel. Now these waters are also infested with crocodiles. I can't imagine the human-wildlife conflict is would be helpful in trying to eliminate wildfires in a wildland, Mozambique. But it looks like a lot of fires have been able to take hold. A lot of wind-whipped slapdash. Even it's not really wind-whipped. It's follows the river systems. Fire burns. We have this here. Fire comes down, and through its own momentum in the path of least resistance, because the wind is blowing one way, and when it gets into the valley and its slope, fires love slopes. Let's say that the wind is blowing west over the water. We're going to get an extreme point right here that starts to burn extremely hot. Arc. You can just keep doing this and doing this and doing this. It doesn't need to stop until it has smoke that is billowing onto the side, dropping hot particulates to start fires. So one trick is to always just follow the river systems, because there are fires burning. It's going to take advantage of these slopes, these slight slopes. Either up or down the slope, is fire is going to take advantage of it. So dozens of fires, I would say hundreds of fires in Mozambique have been burning. All these little darkened areas here, these are all wildfires that are still burning. Dozens right here. Time lapse. Fires are ferocious. This one right here. Looks fresh. With the smoke plume. It doesn't look like a lot of smoke, but it's a focal point right here of the smoke that you can see. It looks smoldering. This land looks hot. That fire is going to break out and take advantage of all the fuel around it. That looks like a very hot, fiery incident, fire incident. Now, that was Mozambique. That was Zimbabwe. We looked at Nigeria. We looked at Burkina Faso. We looked at some of Mali, which there's some fires burning. Strange shaped state of Mali, country of Mali, landlocked state. And it's not due to being landlocked that we're seeing fires either, because Mozambique is entirely on the channel, the Mozambique Channel. Let's see, Botswana. Let's just zoom in right here on the name. And we zoomed in on fire. Is it easier to zoom in almost randomly in an area and not get fire? I mean, I kind of see the darkened areas, so I'm already zooming in on it consciously probably, but this is a huge fire. 10 kilometers in length, and this is the active fire perimeter right here. Really burning its way through. Let's do a time lapse of this and see if we can more information. So this is Botswana. Beautiful, lush, green, vibrant. Fire is introduced. Play. Fade. Fire finds its way into the local ecology. Looked like it didn't have fire before. And then it just becomes this very, very violent fire. This is one of the most violent fires that we've seen today. Absolutely unreal how hot this oval-shaped fire. It is just wind-driven and drilling into it. This is one of the most deep-seated fires we've seen. And this is the 23rd, so it's yesterday. Absolutely massive fire. These are the kind of fires that blow up that you start to begin to hear about if you live in other countries. Kind of wildfires that are miles in length. Let's say it's 13 miles or 10 kilometers. Either way, it's zoomed in on another fire right here. Botswana has been burning for a while now, but these are areas that have been largely free of fire, and now it looks to be gouging the land. Botswana's in trouble. Doesn't look like any areas of population have been burning, at least these areas of Africa that we've been looking at. No population so far has been damaged by fire, hurt by fire. That's not saying that the smoke isn't hurting people. Smoke everywhere and already industrialized countries like start getting into oil storage, oil tankers, and its rough history in South Africa. I don't know if it's still happening, but fuel tankers were being stopped miles before their destination in South Africa due to the amount of fuel tankers that were running off the road and exploding, causing massive wildfires. So people were fighting back and trying to stop them on the road. Also, they could have been robbing them of fuel. Either way, it's very dangerous enough work. So this is Limpopo in South Africa. Like some fields that were burned. Don't burn your crop fields. Don't burn your fields. Resist the urge to burn your fields. Because for the reasons like, let's say, prion disease, Prion, prion disease, set into an area of cattle, that land is never going to be usable again for cattle. Soil. You can rip it up, you can take it out. That town in, was it Missouri, 50s or 60s? No, it was the 60s. Had to excavate several feet due to a man that was selling a service that was mixing oil with pesticide and spraying it all along the roads to keep the dust down. Well, they controlled the dust for a little bit, but when there happened to be dust, it became lethal. Sorry, that was a little tangent. So, I'm not going to look at South Sudan as currently engaged in brutal civil war. I try to avoid the areas with a lot of war and bloodshed. It's There's only certain things that you can tell on satellite. I don't have the resolution for urban populace to be able to look at it as I did in Ukraine. Ukraine was massive, talking about massive structures. I guess we can take a look at Australia. Looks like there's some burns, but they're all in the bush. They're all in these areas that are difficult to access for heavy machines. Can't control the smoke. At least we're not seeing too many active fires already just by zooming in, but this is all scorched earth here. This is all just within this fire season from August. Oh, there's a fire. Oh, that's a brutal fire right there. Goes from nothing until just one day, boom. That is a wicked looking fire. Terrible smoke associated with it. I wouldn't say it's a deep seated fire, but it's alarming. Head down south. Earth? This is about the best resolution I can get in the city. We come out of Western Australia and enter northwestern South Australia, going into Southwest Northern Territory, Australia, by Alice Springs. And there's a big one. That's Northern Territory, I believe. Yep. Smack dab in the middle of Northern Territory. Now, there's been a lot of precipitation and rain, but also lightning. Seeing this fire here, this is all smoke right here. This is a huge plume of smoke. This thing looks like a cloud, not a cloud. It is smoke. That is monstrous. Go from almost nothing. Now, I don't know where fires are going to be before I start looking. Usually just get an idea of just by scrolling up and zooming in and out. Using a false color for an urban setting to be able to distinguish water from dark and burnt earth to river systems and explosions of flame. Just looking for darkened areas that might be burned, and just happen to zoom in on wildfire. Look at this one right here. A lot of burnt earth that's left. Yeah, I'll play it again. Fires are picking up again in Northern Territory, even though that is seeing less drought. Still is a very hot place. Let's see how far this fire came along. Oh. Now this is just east of Cape Vale, Queensland, Australia. There's some pretty impressive runs for Australia. I'm obscured by cloud coverage. You see just how many days it takes just for these fires to run, you know, 50 to 100 kilometers. That's 50 kilometers right there. We just saw a fire that went 50 kilometers in less than a week. Not only does it 50 kilometers, 20 kilometers west, it's 20 kilometers east, it's 50 kilometers northeast, and then north from that. So it's not, it's not that we're just seeing these fires that are running dozens of kilometers each day. They're going back and smoldering in all that fuel in the nighttime. We can't see the wildfires at night. Satellite, live satellite like this. This is a real time. As you can get satellite, it's 10-minute increments on Zoom Earth, Zoom.Earth. A lot of cloud coverage, and you see a lot of rain coming over here for the eastern coast from Rockhampton to Brisbane to Sydney to Melbourne. Getting a lot of rain and a little bit of precipitation in Northern Territory near where the uh, fires just were we're looking at in Northern Territory, just northeast of the fires. So it's a lot of precipitation. Still, fires can take hold in areas that are just where the conditions are uh, perfect, like this. It's a very smoldering fire, very deep-seated, smoldering land. Just instinctively zoom out in an area and then there's fire. Oh, here's an area. Oh, fire and then fire. Oh, quite extensive the amount of burn that we're seeing here in Australia, especially in the Queensland side. Have a lot of new runs that are burning 50 kilometers easy, 100 kilometer or square kilometer perimeter. Let's do a different look at these wildfires over here. Color. massive. Go after explodes after it hits this road here. No, it's the river. Talking about it, just every time the river, it just explodes over top of it because it can send in lava a lot of material and hot material, smoke, into the direction that it looks to be stopping short at, arcing away from the water, going up the slope again, and do this over and over and over again, kind of repeating itself. There's going to be a lot of low-lying vegetation in the river. And if there's a drought, which there is, there's going to be a lot more exposed vegetation than conditions of drought. So even though they're near the water, fire can regain a lot of momentum in the slopes. There we go. That is all I have time for today. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. I will come back with another video regarding either certain volcanoes, take a look at them on satellite, and a lot of lava lake eruptive activity and volcanoes in Indonesia region. Alright, thank you for watching. Good night.